So, good morning, everyone. We will start with Lamrim Kappa Guru Yoga. From the heart of the sever of the 100 deities of the Shita, on a peak of cloud resembling a clump of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dhamma, omniscient Losam Drakpa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me on lying throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme full of merit from a mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind has the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you are meaningful to see, hear, and remember are prostrate. Cleansing drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, light-scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. I offer to you the supreme thrill of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I've collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the eight worldly concerns. Several will sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect pure holy gurus from the billion clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the Dhammakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dhamma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I've collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losam Drakpa's teachings to shine forever. Sa shi po ki ju shi me to Lamrim shi ni de gen padi sangye shindu mikde owa gi roku nanda Shila Shupashu. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lamrim Kappa and his two sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Losam Drakpa, where the morality of an eminently pure way of life was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of two stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and their imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. Mimetse wete chen chen rezi, jime kembe wambo jampe yang, dupu malu jonse sanweda, kanchen kembe tsungyen tsonga pa, losan drape shala sowate. Mimetse wete chen chen rezi, jime kembe wambo jampe yang, dupu malu jonse sanweda, kanchen kembe tsungyen tsonga pa, losan drape shala sowate. Mimetse wete chen chen rezi, jime kembe wambo jampe yang, Dumbo malu jomze sanweda, kanchen kembe tsugen tsonga pa, lo sandra pe shabla sowa ye.
Sangye Chedang Tsoyin Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dami Kapsun Chi Dagi Chushi Gyeban Zadagi Rolam Benchi Sangye Rupara Sho Sangye Chedang Tsoyin Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dami Kapsun Dagi Geshe Yeba Zalagi Rola
Benchi
Sanjin Rubarasho Sanji Chodan Tsojin Chonula Chanchu Bardu Dami Kyabsuchi Dagi Geshe Yeba Zalagi Rola
Benchi
Sanjin Rubarasho Kangi Tudini Zone Tawa Tamse Pambi Chere Tambi Chun Tenze Kodam Chela Chanselo. Good morning, everyone. Samdi Sumbal Lonchula Sena Maluba Jumba Samjini Jimmy Pashin Girti Senan Dosha Chatova in the Timmy Dachumba Nikia Seven the Chiba Malu Bombicheros Tin Sam the rest.
We will continue with the presentation of the perfection of generosity taken from the steps of the path of those of the great scope according to Kappa's milling presentation of the Lamrim. So looking at the point that we left off in the previous session, how to generate generosity in one's own mind. And it says, generosity is not perfected by merely destroying all miserliness towards one's body and wealth, because the two types of Hinayana Arhats, without exception, also have abandoned that along with all its seeds, given that miserliness is included in the factor of attachment.
Terta the Jenso Pashin Trugnani, the Jimbi and Jimbi Parchi, the Jimbi Parching Zawat, the Jimba was the Jimba said the so and Tong is Sambateta and Jimbi Shitsudo, the Tong is Sambati, Senna Mebiton, the Tong Semjorda, or the Jimbi Zawatarian was.
And so here we're looking at generosity as within the perfection of generosity. And the main thing in generosity is the intention to give. That is the principal thing, the intention to give. Without miserliness being intended on giving. This is generosity.
Tilda, Dinza, that Jimba Tambi, Regitant Rosa, that Jimba Tambi, Penyu de Longjun Jonyati, and Jimbi in Debris, Soyora, the Ra. And on the Kapkalaya, Topatin, Sassi, Agila, careers and any Chiksozo big, any song gab, Kali Gani, and in John Den Chaya, Tindi, Mosum the Toyora, that did say in Jimmy Peggy. And then laundry chimbun jongalaya, jimbala, the Tangoyam, do some give. Then some share cigarettes in ya, and then delaya, laundry chimbun jonya de. Song gave a chick jiki laundry chimbun jonwa reveslana. The young of the shini, the shipjachigoya chikra. Song young mambu shujer, so young and samalo, and it's song gamni, Kevsan chamber having, you was on in the Yomaros. When a Martha Shambushan, Son Javaina, and Son Lamrim Majuat in the Yunguore, Son Deviat in the Yunguore, and Kashi and a Son Chunju Jamni, and Kepsan Chambu Rading in the Yunguora, that is a car race, kept a carton short is Lawandi, Gugin Yobadi, Geshe Yatamanza, Gugin so Tuxadi, Don Simlaya 2 years. Don is somebody sent the Lamania, Gavan Hamanamsu, and Piggy. Jimba Tambigi, and Le Mam Sajamaza, Le Telea, and Sendelea, Genji Cheon Dira, 송장나리 칼레장나리 가리네 딘디지 깬지 채원디 니까 동원디 안에 론준 배매현도 용데 딘디 야시야다마 딘디 용구였사리스로
And so when we think of giving without miserliness and considering the benefits of giving, it is said, it is commonly accepted, as is stated in scripture, that from generosity come resources. And so it could be that some might entertain some doubt with respect to that statement, from generosity resources, given that we can see, for example, in this life, people that put a lot of effort into creating a business, and they really work hard in creating their business, and they become very successful. So someone might say that it's not that actually they became successful or very wealthy because they were generous. They became wealthy, or they have a lot of resources because they really worked hard. They put a lot of effort into their business, and therefore, is it really the case that from giving come resources? Well, when we look at people that are doing business, and of course, there's so many people that are involved in different business ventures. So there are some who invest in the business but don't experience success, or very little success. Some put very little into the business, they invest just a little, and they reap a huge success. They become very wealthy. So when we look at those different variations, we can say that the basis for that, for being also successful in your business, is having given before, not in this life, then in previous lifetimes. And we can then go into great details in looking at different scenarios of different businesses. So not all businesses are successful, as we say. And so cause and conditions for becoming successful in one's business have been created before. And when those cause and conditions come together, they give rise to a result in this life. So someone, we've performed many actions, accumulating different types of karmas, such as, for example, the karma of giving. And when conditions are met in this life, those causes that we've created before come to fruition. And so they come to fruition, and therefore you can say that it is indeed the case, definitely 100% certain, that from generosity come resources.
데레간지 파 마땅발 수용야지 디시기어 말스 딘지 아니 균제지 시기어 말스라 베나간주 싱가도지네 싱가야부 끼야야 팔로 아니 사메야부 스탑시 아니 소종치고 나시 디치나 제부야부 치용거라스라 인제 총지면에 파 말자지 마단의 수 캡산지 용고 말하다 그라 아니 딘지 인자 동리 샘바디 여바이나 동샘디 여바이나 텔라 템비게 아니 수용야 론준 종야디 그 균제근 조단치라 간지 아니 넘버 3기 최고 자디 비기다 가서다 지 정람다 맞나 택 신다 맞아 자디 아니 균제근 조단들인도스라 균제근 조단 균제리 기비게 남샤지 셰바이나다 최고나 자원이다 지당기 택 말아서라.
And so without giving, then there would be no result. In the same way that we can say, when you plant something in your field, so you cultivate a field, if you do it well and you plant seeds, you can get good result, good crops. It depends upon that. Similarly, if you invest in your business, you create some fund money, it depends upon also having practiced generosity before, then you can experience resources of wealth that arise out of your investment. So all of that works within the framework of causes and conditions that produce result, which is the root of the Dhamma of the Buddha Dhamma. Causes and conditions give rise to a result. And without having cultivated those causes before, such as, for example, generosity, the result will not arise. So this is found within the presentation of the Buddha Dhamma, and without that, whatever you find in teachings of the Buddha, without conforming to causes and conditions producing effects, the Dhamma of the Buddha would be inadmissible.
예, 다딘디 상담이 배우고 돌아 상담이나 아니 동숨 기토야치 동이 셈바티 레바이나 센나 메비톤 동숨 레바이나 다디 짐비냠닝 초토케바치 라 res.
And so when we think of the benefits of generosity, then giving without miserliness is said to be best.
다디니 다 짐비 8천 세야디 라 짐비 냠는 짬마스 다 짐비 8천 세야디 아니 센나 좀 짬려야 저는 지금 말이스 다 좀니 얘는 다 좀니라야 아니 센나 사변도 집어 빵바 요원사 아니 델레야 짐비 8천 냠는디 다 요마리스 라운디 다 디게 촉치 고야치 라 송고라다.
And so then another point to consider is that here we're not looking just at generosity, but we're speaking of the perfection of generosity. And as such, the perfection of generosity is not limited to just giving without miserliness. It is not simply giving without miserliness, because also other practitioners, Hinayana Arhats here, and so to realize that Arhats have done that. They have given without miserliness, and therefore simply giving without miserliness does not constitute a perfection of generosity, which means that there needs to be something that supports, something that accompanies one's giving.
인자 디체르스 동위 개 세니 군진 서버스도 마세 도바 탐지 샹의 동위 삼반인 타반이 예고소스 더 셴뱅 삼바티 간지 아니 인지 쳔볼라 소바 딘지 군란다 셴라 펜빅 삼바티 기고 그레스 더디 삼바이나 드니 동위 삼바디 아니 짐비 파르싱기 냠란을 차그레스.
And that being the case, let's look at what Lamrim Kappa says. It says, it is necessary not only to eliminate the obstacle to giving, which is miserliness or clinging to all things, but rather to generate from the depth of one's heart the thought of giving away all one's possessions to others. For that, it is necessary to meditate both on the faults of clinging to things and on the benefits of giving. So it means that not only here we give without a sense of miserliness, what accompanies that sense of giving is an altruistic intention, great compassion. So that compassionate intentionality accompanies the action of giving.
Tell us, indeed, that Jimmy Parsi Yabuji Yongela Cargo Islandi, Yong Suson Yemik Tang, Yong Soma, and Dayan La Chapa, Dayan La Chapi, Chapalaya, Yemik Tongoyatan, and Dayan Piggy, Tachik Shella Tamiki, Pay Nibodi, the Gomgovadi, and a kitchen would show him, but the Dawdam Dolly Sombataris.
And so here Lamrim Kappa says, for that it is necessary to meditate both on the faults of clinging to things, clinging to objects of desire, and also the benefits of giving. And in order to support that, Lamrim Kappa here quotes from the Moonlamp Sutra.
The Tome be that Chakbi Yimik Towndi, and it can't like Chaksagi, and Yul Pigita, Luta, and also, and Le Tambo, and 망치아디 아니 수 룰라야 랑기 류단 생기 류다 룰라야 차그연자 아니 착시 룰라야 무정와 따위고니 아니 델라 차비 차보 도토치 차보 온규 도토치 송간자 류 무정와 따와단스 속 리저기 슈더리 요와탄 템부메바 류소 니가 레지 샤와진 임베 아니 강가 차시기 다 코라야 아니 라왕기 다메바 테네 몰람 다 gyumataur zomba tene tel chaba gagodis te malona chabi ondu sondi nyeju chimbano sani ngandron drower somba tang
So he says, it's taught in the Lamrim Sutra. The former faults of grasping are that the body is unclean. So when we consider the drawbacks of attachment, whatever we're attached to begin with, when we consider ourselves as beginner practitioners, we are attached to our bodies and we are attached to the bodies of others. And so in order to overcome grasping, that sense of clinging, the sense of attachment, we need to then consider the uncleanliness of the body, our body or the body of others. So it says, the faults of grasping are that the body is unclean. So we consider the uncleanliness of the body in order to put a stop or in order to overcome manifest attachment to the body. We also consider that the life force fluctuates like water gushing down a steep mountain in considering death and impermanence. And both body and life force are under the power of karma, thus lacking an independent self. Therefore, you should see things to be false like a dream or a mirage and cease your attachment to them. If you do not counter your attachment, you will come under its power, accumulate great faulty conduct, and go to the lower rebirths.
terida di namalaya ta lu mazawang slawandi pigita ani lu trutangni chene samtangwa jik sungyo sares lu mazawang khandrat shawres lana pigita mari bukone lane lesa legini ba namshik tundesha ani tele seleng sutab ani kevale teni jik kamsela soba tinjigita luya ki teni ma lu ko ani tunga nan da lu rodan jara tinji di ani lu tinji ji samtangwa na lu di ani raman do mebachi ro ken shen bashi la teni thoshawa ani lu tinji ji samlo ji dai
And so here the Moonlight Sutra refers to the uncleanliness of the body, the Moonlight Sutra. So it says that we need to consider the faults of grasping through considering that the body is unclean. So when we consider the uncleanliness of the body, we can consider that from the very establishment of the body, how it comes to be. First off, being controlled by ignorance, anger, and attachment arise that motivate actions, the accumulation of actions that result in birth. And as we are born and we need to nourish the body and the different elements within the body goes through different transformation and is going through a process of sickness, aging, and death, so that as the body grows, as we grow up and the body develops and the body also grows older and becomes bent and so forth, there are different things that happen to the body, that occur to the body without us having any control over that process, as the body is not independent, but is under the power of other conditions. Those are the things that we identify, recognize in relation to the unclean nature of the body, and remedy for attachment to the body.
Tenita sok result chutar yoas laundi rada ji thagrela sok tin ani thombu gan ma chu shobaina ani chud de rama meba ma saya jima do dia ani de thuya gi chi Ramando di Zawin Yomaros, Dinanshi, so di be reserve chudavres, and so di chok, so one and got choch, Upadan, Sunlamaduna, so on garage. The diligent been a cup cheeky being on so chok to yellow so in the Yuanza, and it Nanzu so di, Shuji Zachim said there so di, and lay a Ramakin Yomaris, that can see Ramakin Yomaris.
It also says the life force fluctuates like water gushing down a steep mountain. So if we think of this scenario of water gushing down a steep mountain that cannot be welled up, they cannot be stopped. Similarly, a life force is running out. We breathe out, and if we do not breathe in, we easily die. The simple conditions, trivial conditions contributing to death, even as far as you can say that even one small needle can be something that will cause our death. And therefore, our life force fluctuates like water gushing down a steep mountain.
The Ludan Soniga Pigita Shaman Jainza Ludan Soniga Mena and Nga says a jig. The Yomar, the Lusol Tembe, Nga says Legor Mado, Luso ni Torni, Tiparalia Nga says Lardiaji Yomaros. Things that did Mevanza, Luso Shaman Jaimbe, and he Luso di Ludan Soni body, Shaman Bashi Yimbe, and tell it them be Ngadi. Shaman Jaimba Geshe Yatamari, Tinza, Rawangi now, Rawangi dark seji, Zawin in Mevadi, Ratrikundus.
And so, if the body and life have no independence, no control, also the I that depends upon them has no control, no independence, in that it is impossible, for example, for the life force and our body to be completely finished in this life, to completely be exhausted, while the I still remaining. So the meaning that we draw from considering the state of the body and the state of our life force in both of them not being independent but depending on others is also that I, or me, is also dependent upon others. So it says at the end, and body and life force are under the power of karma, thus lacking an independent self.
Tell the Geshe Dini Songoda, the D Geshe Mupe, the Diro, and the Lamrim one tap of the Chanju Samda, Dami Tobi, Tawani Bodita, sort of it, remember what you know, Lusot of the Chaguanza, and it did see the Tony, and then Dame Koya Wushuch, Rayagi. Dindo asra dame said the Rawangi dame said Rawangi dame so the cousin da nga singing di yongdan di luso ni le tenita nga se tanyan tobe chigenza and luda so ni bodi Rawan so ni mena del dembi da di rawang chutsuji yongshing mara dinza and Rawangi dame bi kowa di yabu ye bayna ro and pigi chaksagi da Rangun Trubati, Sawanita, never Jigra Trabana, and it tell a chabigi, and it chabadi, the Ngang Doyachik, Yungiorasra.
This is an important point, of the most important points in this presentation. So we have been looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's presentation of the states of the path of enlightenment from the very beginning, and looking at the life vein, the central pillar of this presentation. It consists of two aspects: bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, and the view of selflessness. This is the life force of the presentation of the states of the path of enlightenment. So then when we develop a good understanding of selflessness, one of those factors, we understand that we do not exist independently, but that we are dependent upon others. So then when we think of ourselves as depending upon the body and mind, upon the body and life force, we think that I'm not independent because I depend upon my body and my life force. And my body and my life force are also not independent, but they depend upon others. And therefore, through developing that understanding of us, ourselves not existing independently, not being an established independent self, we can use that understanding in order to overcome the attachment that we have to ourselves. When we understand that we do not exist independently, but we depend upon others, naturally, that sense of attachment and clinging to oneself will abate.
데레다 딘자 말람타 규마타우르 좀바테니스다 라 다싱인디 아니 말람타 규마타우르 좀바테니 아니 텔라 차바가고데스 라 달라 차바가고데스 안즈타 달라 차비 차바디 온기 아니 짐바타 마투야 수정소 마투야 소바고 마투야 참로 아니 투사디 달라 차비 차바들 투요라스 달라 차비 차바디 and Tusadi da round the triple zimbita, Mariba tele tuyanza, and what dindigi rumbadi. Then one tribute on the and it's only a voice down by not that the gom yakshu, there are Yamne yakshu, Pendo cheshu, the disongora, that are.
And not only that, also the sutra says that we consider the self to be or we consider things to be false, like a dream or a mirage, and cease your attachment to them. So we consider ourselves to be, through understanding the selflessness of ourselves, we consider our existence to be like a dream, like a mirage, and so forth. And when we consider the benefits of that, we can see how when we cling to ourselves, when we grasp at ourselves to exist independently, we do not practice generosity. So there is no generosity, there is no ethics, there is no patience, and so forth. These do not exist on account of the attachment that we have to the self. So if we think in a very deep way, if we think well of ourselves not existing independently, not being an established self, that will constitute an excellent meditation, a best meditation, and a great benefit will ensue.
Te malona chabi on the Sunday, Nijuchaman San and Andrew Somba towns, Niban love Dylan, the Dagi Ludens, Kiji drawing Kadem, that Chiba with Luigi Tajik, Chanju Tobanjan and Kennedy, Niman, Shesomba Taros.
If you do not counter your attachment, you will come under its power, accumulate grateful conduct, and go to the lower rebirths. The second, the benefits of giving, are taught in the compendium of trainings. In this way, my body and mind pass away in every instant. If I attain permanent, untainted enlightenment with this tainted, impermanent body, is it not obtained for free?
Nippani the Kitsun is Jimbi Samba Kitsun, John Julie, Ludan Tejan Lonjotan, Tuzon Gava Tamjegan, Simjin Kungi Tendrushe. Pemba Meba Tamarchas. She sombata will Luloncho gets us me, Chin, Simjan Tanjel, Tony Sambayana, Comber Chaos.
And also Shantideva said in his Entering the Bodhisattva Wave, in describing how generosity should actually be generated, I give away with no sense of loss my body as well as my possessions and all my virtues of the three times to accomplish the welfare of all sentient beings. So he says like that, taking body, wealth, the roots of virtue as your object, familiarize yourself again and again with the thought of giving them away to all sentient beings.
Tirda miyu du cheni simjan tamjela tongi samba rangi ani lu pigege dachi chava khari cheni ya che tungi da lu di 아니 심지어 탐지기 체도 심지어 탐지기 체도 아니 팬디 중인 기다 류진 교쇼 성성기 성로다나다 류라미니 아니 샹의 동세 차그러스라 다 롱주 직소소라야 가리 여바디 아니 직 팬토고사 아니 심지어 순다치와야 팬토쇼 성성기 성로다와이나 딘지기도스 다 게자디 소주 게자 칸사샤바 텔 때니 아니 심지어 탐지 비기다 대긴의 댐바치 로 타투나 심지어 탐지 상기 고모토비 균교와지쇼 삼비 아니 성노든지 양양 땅에 디리 디인사레스
So here, when we follow the instruction given by Shantideva in giving away our body as well as our possessions and all of our roots of virtues in the 3 times, it says that we think of all sentient beings and we develop the intention to give our body possessions and roots of virtues to all of them. And when we think of the body, for example, and the different things that the body is capable of doing, we think that the body capable of doing different things become that which provides all sentient beings with benefit and happiness. Whoever needs it, may that be of benefit to them, my body and possessions, and also my roots of virtue. Thinking of all the roots of virtues that we have created, dedicating them to sentient beings and thinking, by those roots of virtue, may sentient beings be happy. May they receive happiness, and the final happiness that may they receive would be the happiness of Buddhahood.
다다 메바 마민신 톱총웨스 심젠라 삼비 류진 신양 샬소보 우스 때 미들메스 다 미들메스 웬캬 르소 똥이 삼바 마자나 공바 메베 다즈캬 르소 똥 문이바 합딜 솜비 다다니 삼바장고소스.
Since your current determination is immature and of little strength, you should not actually give away your flesh and so forth, even though you have already mentally given away your body to sentient beings. Nonetheless, the companion of training says that if we do not train in the thought of giving away our body and life now, we will also not be able to do so in the future, owing to the lack of familiarity with it. Therefore, it is necessary to train in that thought from now on.
Hirda ben rawa shawana chik sozo la ya chala jiyawana di mejla di kerang la tegi ins lab tsavi jela da sozo tretsa rawasra da meti kebayna ani sena shobayna da ani chita yurochi rawa yang nganzu sena kyuni chakpa kyuni pa meti zambala sena shoyaji yungro wasra de nanshin gi da nganzu ben chanjuk sem 비게 따지 멤버 셈게리 아니 주고 셈게 엄마나 찬주 셈비다 동발 엔상이 로상아 그 추신 동발 엔상이 지바이나 야자자네 야탐바 초지 자와세는 집어 빵도 주제니 룽아 이선 아니 시안라야 땅기 있음 담자 지고로 왔어 따디 담자 지원이 이제는다 류 아니 시안라 제스바지 루 시안라 제스바지 차사레스 다 임바이나 류 시안라 제스바이나야 베다 샹글루엔자 베 소수치 아니 샤다 탈라소바 아니 제니 바 때고 줬나 아니 샘그 소고 말았었다 샘그 무서워 가서나 샘레야 디 존다도 자원이 체면자 쇠투고 말해 딘자 단단인다 당부 샘레야 존다 제거야디 백히셴보리스.
And so to illustrate what this section is saying with respect to currently still not being permitted to give away parts of our body. To illustrate that, you might promise someone to give them a particular thing. Now, you have actually said that I'm giving it to you. If having expressed that I'm giving it to you, the person takes it away, and then you develop miserliness. you become stingy, it's too late. You've already given it away. So it's too late to be stingy. And of course, so long as we haven't eliminated attachment to stinginess, it will still exist. And so when we think of how we then deal with our current state in which we haven't eliminated stinginess, and yet we have made a promise to give, like, for example, we develop bodhicitta, the man of enlightenment, and we develop aspiring bodhicitta, engaging bodhicitta, we take on the bodhisattva vow. And when we take on the bodhisattva vow, we make a promise that, and when we made the promise, the commitment, the pledge of the bodhisattva vow, we make a promise to give away our body. So in that sense, we can say that the body is already given. We've already given away our body. So then, since we've already given away our body, if there is a scenario in which someone might say that because you've already given it away, then I can take parts of your body, flesh and blood and so forth. Currently, we'll still not be able to persevere with that, to be patient. If someone is going to cut away pieces of our body, even if we've already said that we're giving away our body. And so, since there's still impatience that will arise in our mind if our body is going to be cut to pieces, even though we've given it already away, at least now what we should do is to train our mind in the attitude of giving our body rather than giving it in a practical sense, in an actual sense.
대들 삼바타바니 심전라 땅위 세구솔라 저바나스 라다 샹라 땅기 샹라 찌긴센다 아니 겨우세는 집인 둘이야 담제 체사요 제라다 완전히 샹기 차사와라다 수수 류임바이나야 샹기 차사와인자 다 대다다 아니 대다라 롱제온디 대다 제버 차오스 대다 롱제온디 다 간드스 롱제거스나 아니 셴기 체도다 롱제기 예비 somebody 아니 자원인 제닝 말했어. 그러 추주 동바이나야 셴기 류래야 펜비 체도 추주 동고여 삼비기 삼바치 기에토가나 다 야부슈치 그러 다 디제니 나랑기 추주 동고서 나랑기 류디 야부지 제고 삼네 란도데 세비체나 니무첸다스 세번님 니무첸다 세번님 메라 심전 탐절의 미빈 뒤시 제봉 심전 셰시기 차는 니무첸 많이 동로스.
And so we have made a promise to give away our body. In that sense, our body now belongs to others. And so when we use a body, we need to be using it for the sake of others. Even as far as simple activities, like drinking a glass of water. So we've given a body to others. Now it belongs to others. So when we drink a glass of water, we can think, I'm doing it for the benefit of others. That's an excellent thing to do. I'm doing it for the welfare of others. Rather than to think of ourselves, to think that I'm now drinking a glass of water for myself, for my body, we can think, I'm doing it. The body belongs to others. I'm doing it for the benefit of others. Otherwise, we will still have clinging or attachment to the body, which is what Lamrim Kappa says here. Thus, it is an afflicted infraction, it is an afflicted infraction when out of craving you use food, clothing, and so forth that you have sincerely given away to sentient beings, having forgotten the thought, I will use these for the welfare of others, and instead using them for your own welfare.
대다 다 셴랑고 대달라 셴기 제수 두시니 아니 랑기 체 제나 마질랜드 규르시 렌당 사나 딱 지gelong 파마타오 게수 파마타오에나 소더기 판발라 소번 규르와탄스 심진 코랑기 롱지 젤라 그 된차오 냠도 제나 님에도 아니 ngоса 심진 디체도 송거다 심진 코랑 기사데 간랑 ngо사게 심진 디체도 아니 롱제 바이나 아니 니바 메바데 합두나라야 아니 송도스
Then Lamrim Kappa says it is non-afflicted infraction if without this craving you forget the perception that includes all sentient beings, or if you're attached to those things for the sake of another sentient being. Now it says that suppose that you have dedicated something for the sake of others. In your mind, you thought, I'm giving it away to others. It says it is stealing if you use it for your own sake. If you use for your own sake those things dedicated to others, knowing they are someone else's property. If those things are valuable, it becomes a defeat of the pratimoksha vow, which means that if you have in your mind dedicated something to another person, but you still make use of it for your own personal gain, it is considered to be stealing. And if you have a vow, like for example, a monastic vow, then it is regarded as a defeat in relation to your vow. On the other hand, there is no fault if you use them thinking, I will use this sentient being's wealth for its own welfare. This is mentioned in the compendium of trainings.
데다 다 십자 제고에 찍라 카리어스란 다 샹랑 거바 대달라 셴기 제순 류신의 랑기 째나 베나 아 판발라 소인 규주그레스 다 셴기 임번 류신이 아니 랑기 째도 째나 가르쳐 그레스 라 셴기 가서 셴기 임번 류 마시니 라 셴라야 뭐 차비기 제디 셴기 임번 류신 매와체 뭐 차례다 소수 류시기네 소수 제바이나 달래 네바 요르 요 마르스 라바이나스로 다디 셴라 뭐 차바디 아니 셴기 류시 매나 디 롱지 온디 셴기 류시 매나 다 장주선비 동발로 소보여나 야시야다 델야 냥가 첨부 차고 왔어레스.
And so there are some clarifications that can be done in relation to this point. So it says that when you, in your mind, dedicate something for the sake of others, but you still use that thing for yourself, it constitutes stealing. So then the question is, what about your attitude, the type of recognition that you have? If you dedicate something for the sake of others, and your attitude, your recognition is that therefore it belongs to others, it is not mine, this is others, that indeed constitutes stealing. What about, for example, if you dedicate something to others, then you use it for yourself without the attitude that thinks, the thing that I'm using now for myself belongs to others. What if you don't have that attitude that it belongs to others? Well, in that case, it doesn't constitute the action of the infraction of stealing in this way, but it's still, you can say, it is still constitute a danger with respect to our bodhisattva vow.
십자진 송과사리 단 방방 원술니스 라 젠딩 경험 따오징인 바이나 라 잔주 셈바다 잔주 셈 계생 젠딩 경험 징인 바이나 아니 셴랑 무비긴 아니 제델야 셴군 두시니 아니 랑기 체도 롱체나 다 방방 칸르시 차그리스 라운디 민 로발라 삼바타반 무시 라 민 로발라 삼바타반 무시 대장 대rig니 다도 소에 값소 아니 신기 임반 뒤신의 란전 렘발라 렌당 상마 방바 원서 여발라 공소스.
And so there's this scenario in which you might be an ordained person. You have a vow of the Pratimoksha class. You might be fully ordained, let's say, and you have in your mind dedicated a particular thing for the sake of others. Subsequent to that, use that thing for your own sake rather than for the sake of others. That scenario is saying that that is a defeat in relation to your vow of ordination. It says it becomes a defeat when you have dedicated something with a sincere thought to a sentient being who is a human and is aware of it and also holds it to be his. So that is how it becomes a defeat. You have dedicated it to someone else, that someone else is a human being. The person is aware of it, and also he thinks of what you have dedicated as mine. This is mine. The factors for it to become a defeat are present if you take it for your own welfare, aware that it belongs to someone else, and if it is of some value. That is the intention here. This is how it becomes a defeat in relation to the ordination vow.
Tadi tirita chitanga pamba singedi gelong pamala mado nyebadi ani shanlan joy yo marwas ra ta gelong pamala bi pamba nange ta pena majilenge pamba tawdi ani mi ani drawajiki ani tagtu sonye zeimba Tiang dilembi kala ya shengi pigi dag ani dagbo dige pigi dagi sonyo ba ani suzu lembi kala di shengi yimban dushi yibi toni ani lenya soba da gyuyi mambu shuch chango gres mado jenla ngubi ze yimba tsamgi di ani suzu chedu lena ani pamba yimbi kyaba yo mares indi pamba chi yong sa yo ba inza ani tela goni ani pamban gyuris sonya de telagombaris telegon songoyores.
And so here Lamrim Kappa is clarifying a scenario in which fully ordained monks or nuns might wonder what happens if they have dedicated a particular thing for the sake of others and they still use it. Is it a defeat in relation to the vow of full ordination? So this terminology defeat is a terminology that is used only in relation to fully ordained monks and nuns. So in relation to a vow of full ordination, for a defeat to be incurred in the scenario of taking what was not given to you, there are certain features that need to be complete. So you take something from another person, it needs to belong to that person, right? So for a defeat to be incurred, it needs to be something that belongs to another human being. And they also need to think about it as theirs. They need to think, I own this thing. And the person that takes it, the fully ordained monk or nun, needs to know that it belongs to others, that others think about it as theirs, and then to take it. And that will constitute a defeat in relation to a vow of full ordination. Otherwise, if those features are incomplete, a defeat will not be incurred. So this clarification is made because someone might wonder, well, what if I take something that was dedicated for others, but others do not think about it as theirs? They do not have that sense of ownership. Do I incur defeat in relation to my ordination vow? Well, in this case, there is no defeat. If others don't have a sense of ownership, thinking about it as this is mine, it does not constitute a defeat.
Xianyans, da nganzula longju chimu mebi kabdula ya, da categories la ni. Ani in tabani tangwes, ra. One is Jimba Tangwala ya, same thing ni pigita. Ani iche dan teba yubi ton. Debuton is dinza debuton da. Ani jinji chun hazo ba bagmeba chik chun semge ya pi yi chun ra. Yi chubi choba sejara da. Yi la ya chik ani sozo la ya longchu bagme yoba chik me ani di tang chetan chik ani be ani shen la ya ani tangwa di meba chen mebe gita jimba cheba na 아니 티 시총 소는 빵매 페바탄스 대한 셰럽 쟁기 짐바 대한 디 남주 쟁기 짐바 임바디 아니 장사기 바보 토메기 장사라야 아니 또 송도
And then Amundsen Kappa explains a mode of being generous that is very useful to us. It says, that is the intention here. Apart from that, this is something that is useful to all of us. The Bodhisattva levels teaches that merit increases immeasurably and with little effort through training in the determination to emanate immeasurable varieties of offerings and to give them with clarity to sentient beings from the depth of one's heart. And so we visualize that we emanate immeasurable offerings. And with a sense of trust and also with faith, we give them away to others, and we do it from the bottom of our heart. It is said in the Bodhisattva Bhumi, the Bodhisattva levels, that this practice requires very little effort, and yet it is a smart way of accumulating a great degree of merit.
짐비 팔진 러비 세양 파르트 침바 툭된도 체데 러버 존나 톱치오스.
That is the generosity of the wise Bodhisattva. Training in the perfection of generosity will be very powerful if, at the time it occurs, it is endowed with the 6 perfections.
다 툭된도 간다스 라고 그래스 라운디. 디체 녀랑기 이제 돈비 추점당 남kin이 출라 뮤신 출라 신기 셰워서 소바당 대니 공주 페비체도 돈바기비 종주당 핵면다 만지비 샘지지고 개와드 조전는 거비 삼된당 진실 램보 본놈나 주마다위시비 셰르디 투 상체보스.
So if you wonder, how do you turn the perfection of generosity to become very powerful through combining it with the 6 perfections? Lamrim Kappa said specifically, the 6 are made complete if there is at a time the ethics that restrain the mental attention of Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. The determination and patience derived from aspiring to the qualities of omniscience and patience when abused by others. The joyous effort that generates the aspiration for increasing that more and more, the meditative stabilization that is a single-pointed mind, not mixed with the Hinayana, and that dedicates the virtue to complete enlightenment, and the wisdom that understands the object given, the act of giving, and the recipient to be like illusions.
다 니버 추좀 하신 거디 니버를 숨 추좀 영어 추좀 이해와 추좀 길을 기초 당부 현란 네바 시당 제발리 이 칠로비 공비 샘바니 추좀디 돈비 추좀기 조임비 온도 제소스.
And so next is the training in the perfection of ethics, which has 3 points: the nature of ethics, its subdivisions, and how to generate ethics in one's mind. Let's begin with the nature of ethics. Lamrim Kappa says ethics is the mind of abandonment, a mentality turned away from harming others together with its spaces. This is mainly from the point of view of the ethics of restraint.
다디 돈비 추좀기 조임비 온도 제스디 데리지 고기지 요사레스라 베나 아니 류기 녀주 동바 수좀 나기 녀주 동바양 수좀 와나 아니 셴느시드 제발레 이 칠로비 뽕비 샘바드 수좀 송다 디가레스나 디 조요 온도 친 송바레스 마도 나 류기 녀주 동바티양 수좀 리스 나기 녀주 동바티양 수좀 리스.
When Lamrim Kappa says ethics is a mind of abandonment, a mentality turned away from harming others together with its spaces, and this is mainly from the point of view of the ethics of restraint, there's some meaning to be drawn from that. So you can have ethics of abstention from physical misdeeds. You can have ethical discipline that abstains from verbal misdeeds. But still, here it says that the main point of view of ethics is the ethics of restraint, which means that it is an attitude in which you've turned away from harming others. Your mind has turned away from harming others and the basis of that harm. This is the main type of ethics, right? The one that we develop mentally. But of course, abstaining from physical misdeeds and verbal misdeeds is also ethical discipline.
Terda dini da shenla neba sheda cheba slawn da kecheshu din thong dozra namgyuni da shenla neba sheda cheba li domba slawn di da kecheshu direshas da shenla neba di kharire slawn di shenla neba di shenla ya sewa chiyati ro shenla sewa chiyati shenla sewa sena shenla neba din jikba ro re da nösa gi nösa de la kariyor shengi lula neba shengi longju neba shengi semgam nebas tindi sha chogdo asra
And also, when we think of what the meaning is of ethics, it is said that it is a mind of abandonment or abstention, a mentality turned away from harming others together with its basis. So, what are the ways in which we are harmful to others? Well, we can harm the bodies of others, the possessions of others, or the mind of others. Ethic is an attitude of abstention in which we turn away from harming others' body, others' minds, and others' possessions.
da megi chula pa jaron dirwa pena sok chaba digi khal nyogres landi tu lula ya lula nyogdo asra sok chaba di lula nyogores majimba lemba digi longjo le nyogores logba yimba digi semel nyogores darwa so jarwa na teni tat pena chang thong digi samalola de nyogores landi diksara darwa 독시디 비 아니 창통야 디베 아니 나오 큐니 맹이기 녀버디 창통야 디 쓰기도 하서로
저런데 미게출레데 저와
다 베나 아니 메기추 룰라 템비 속체바 마지막에 무성체바 저라
저래
디기 칼은뉴그리스 속체바 디기
저래 데 코소네 그런 찬통야
창통야 디기
데 미게추 케차마로와 데 딜레로바 디술라
제 domba 시온디
저래. And so we can apply it to for example, the 10 non-virtues and investigate what is the thing that is being harmed when we engage in one of those 10 non-virtues. Like, for example, killing. Well, when we take life, when we kill a living being, the main thing that is harmed is their body. Stealing or taking what was not given mainly damages the possessions of others, the resources of others. Sexual misconduct mainly harms the mind of others. So we can think of each one of the 10 non-virtues and investigate what is the main thing that is being damaged when we engage in that behavior. There are things that can damage all of them. Like, for example, if you have a vow and you become intoxicated, you drink alcohol, then through that you can inflict damage or harm on the body, on possessions, and also on the mind of others. We have a massive kookaburra feast outside that we're calling loudly. And Geshe reckons that it is a sign of totally agreeing with what Geshe said. It's saying, Geshe, you're totally spot on.
That shitty careers laundi, Shannon never, that shitty chadam on some days. 네비 시 용사 비긴 종콘도디 차당mon송 된 연구하자 디 레이 로비기 셈바디 다 원이 수점 그 테레스타로.
And so it says that it is a mentality turned away from harming others. So we spoke about ways of harming others. And then it says, but not only that, it is turning away from that together with its bases. What are the bases for harming others? The basis, or what is the basis for harming others? The basis is anger, attachment, and ignorance. Through that, we end up harming others. And so ethics, which is a mind of abstention or abandonment, it is not only turning away from harming the body, possessions, and minds of others, but also from anger, attachment, and ignorance, which are the basis form of harming others.
다 셈바디 공바 공리 공도 용수 조베 수점기 파신된 규기스. 치료도 심전라 뇌세 말르바다 travel 고비고네 마인디 디용 야 메바도지라다. 존줄레 봉위 셈도 토발리 수점 바로 침바시 지송소스.
And then Lamrim Kappa says ethics is perfected through thorough completing one's familiarity with this mind more and more. It is not that you externally establish all sentient beings in freedom from all harm without exception, because this is not possible to establish everyone in a state in which they're completely free from being harmed. So to support that, he quotes from Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, which says the perfection of ethics is taught as achieving the mind of abandonment.
단니발라 라베디 사레 솜레 dombi tsudramni kolongda jibi ondu chena megi chupombe onjin la rangi ngong ondu chena ni megi dun bigilta lungaki dun yora dun pombi lungaki pondun nos.
The subdivision of ethics read, this has 3 points: the ethics of restraint, the ethics of gathering virtuous qualities, and the ethics of bringing about the welfare of sentient beings. Now, beginning with the ethics of restraint, it says, from the point of view of being accompanied by motivation, the ethics of restraint is the 10 abandonment that abandons the 10 non-virtues. From the point of view of its nature, it is the 7 abandonments of body and speech that abandons the 7 non-virtues.
Dela chansale chansam ki gyugi dombi tsudram sodar rigdon la sombi kubani sodar gi domde chansam gi domde ina ni kimba rabjung gi chogi sodar gi domba ngoda di gyugi dedadun tumu kondom dombi tsudram ina sodar gi dombi tendu murong chansam gi domde ina sodar dun tumu ranjin gi kana mandovada jebi kana mandova jiru pongwi kondom dombi tsudram sos.
This is the intention of the statement in the Bodhisattva levels, that ethics of restraint in the mind of a Bodhisattva is the 7 types of Pratimoksha vows. When those who possess the Pratimoksha vows possess the Bodhisattva vows, the ethics of restraint is the actual lay or monastic Pratimoksha vows and the abandonments and vows common to them in their minds. When those who are unsuitable as basis for the Pratimoksha vows possess Bodhisattva vows, the ethics of restraint is the abandonment and restraint of abandoning either the natural misdeeds and prescribed misdeeds that are common to Pratimoksha.
Sotar ki dombi kasa.
Jansangi, Gyugi, Sodargi.
Jansam Gyugi, Sotar ki dombani. Tadirda dombi tsudramla ani Sotar ki domba ngo chigdang ani Sotar ki domba dang ngo mayimbi janju samba kimbi tenjingi gyolaya ani dombi tsudramji yong chogores tindi ni yores ra.
And so we have ethical discipline of vows. So then in the case of bodhisattvas, you can have bodhisattvas who have a pratimoksha vow, in that sense, we refer to ordained bodhisattvas, but they can also be lay bodhisattvas, and lay bodhisattvas can still have ethical discipline of abstention, of restraint.
장섬기 규기 소들기 동반니 장주선비 규기 수름기 동반이야 장섬기 동반 의미라스.
And so Lamrim Kappa says, although the pratimoksha vows in the minds of the bodhisattva are ethical vows, they are not the actual bodhisattva vows, whereas the other vows share a basis with the bodhisattva vows.
라만의 장섬기 동반 대신 동반 요도 요도스.
It finishes off in saying, other vows share a basis with the bodhisattva vows.
다 개와추 뒤기 수름니 신루라 소비 개와라 미니 랑귤라 마게바디 깨지 깨셈 문념바다 고네 콘도 페와체보.
Now, the ethics of gathering virtues qualities read, the ethics of gathering virtues qualities is to observe virtues such as the 6 perfections and to generate those that have not yet arisen in one's own mind, to not degenerate those that have arisen, and to increase them more and more.
심진 된체기 수점니 수점기 권이 심진기 대단 친미 된 카나만도 매바 제대로 리버 드바오스.
And finally, we have the ethics bringing about the welfare of sentient beings. And it reads, the ethics of bringing about the welfare of sentient beings is to accomplish appropriately the welfare of sentient beings in this and future lives through ethics free of misdeeds. Shall we leave the text here for today? Have you got any questions? Pratimoksha vows. Yeah. Could Geshe explain about the pratimoksha vows? What are they? Dila sotargi dombase di tanda karinas. Karakarinas.
저도 소소 타르스 라운디 소소 타르스 해야지. 아니 시코랑 전달이야. 소소 랑랑 소소 코발리 타르바. 랑랑 소소 코발리 타바디 엘레야 가르고레스 라운디. 아니 셴라피 단지 아니 네버 셰다 제바 dombi기 dom바티 고도아스. 엘레야 소달기 dom바세 오레스.
The pratimoksha vows are vows of personal liberation, which means that for the sake of one's own liberation from samsara, we need to abandon or to abstain from certain actions. So committing to do so with a vow for one's own freedom from samsara is what we call pratimoksha vows.
디기 소들기 동바기 다치 비 세토슈디 겔홍기 동바 겔홍 파마니기 동바 아니 게술 파마니기 동바라 소바 용구여레스 다 디디 비기 다치 게술 드립생이 겔홍 드립생이 겔홍 마 드립생이 질마도 아니 디 망고트치에기 나원도디 요마레스라.
And so it is a class of vows, the pratimoksha levels, vows of personal liberation. Within that, the highest forms of vows are vows of full ordination. So full ordination for male monastics and for female monastics, but also we have also novices, getsul in Tibetan, so male and female. The bits or the details of those vows can be explained only to those possessing those vows. They cannot be explained to those who do not possess the vows. So Shannon is asking, what are the vows referred to in the immediately preceding section? Although the vows of individual liberation in the continuum of the bodhisattva of a bodhisattva are vows of ethics and continuum for bodhisattva. They're not actual bodhisattva vows, whereas the other vows have a common basis with the bodhisattva vows. All right. Dila Johnson Yugi Sotogi Dombani Johnson Big Yugi Sundringi Domba Inyang Johnson Domba Numinla Plama La Ni Johnson Domba Shitumba Yodo Serstoa Plama said the Dila Kare Sungionas.
Chanju sembi gyula ani domba sumja yungores. Ra. Ina ya chanju sembi gyugi sodar gu domba di chanju sembi gyugi domba re mando chansum gi domba re sego mares. Tama ani penata ngak lung sheba na chanju sembi domba da sanga domba niga ani chansum gu dombi gi konglai sha chogo sares. Shindun sha chogo sares.
So you can have a bodhisattva that has the 3 levels of vows in the mind stream, which means that they've taken a pratimoksha vow, they've taken the bodhisattva vow, and they've taken the tantric vow. So these 3 can exist in the mind stream of a bodhisattva. And so a bodhisattva might have a vow of personal liberation. So it is a vow in the mind stream of a bodhisattva, but it's not the bodhisattva vow. And similarly, when we think of the other vow, the tantric vow can exist in the mind stream of a bodhisattva. And although that bodhisattva has a vow, it's not the bodhisattva vow. All right, thank you. And so we'll leave it here for today. We'll finish off with the recitation of the final Lamrim prayer. For my 2 collections, fastest space that the mass from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all life as Jushu. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness on the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I've discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going up with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread. Or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace. May the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by even this graded path enlightenment, completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths, never be parted in any of the lives on the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the 10-fold Mahayana virtues practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may ocean of prosperity spread everywhere. Thank you.